to the Dillweed Society Film Podcast. My name is Max, and my favorite movie is The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Hi, my name is Nick. My favorite movie is Grizzly Man.
That's a great choice. I think I've said that before on the pod. Hi, my name is Isabella, and my favorite movie is Barbarian.
That's you can't say that.
I literally just gave a presentation on it. Why can't I say it's my favorite movie?
We have to be impartial for this year.
I could say Mysterious Skin. How about?
I don't know that one.
It's a Greg Araki film, dude. Don't you love Greg Araki?
I love all the movies by Greg Araki I've seen.
Which ones have you seen?
Nowhere and Totally Fucked Up.
You should see. It's actually really hard to watch, so I feel bad recommending it. But.
Welcome to the podcast, Nick. By the way.
Yes, welcome, Nick. This is my neighbor.
Yeah. Thank you.
We saw this movie together, and what is that movie?
We saw The Menu.
Here's a synopsis. A couple travels to a coastal island to eat at an exclusive restaurant where the chef has prepared a lavish menu with some shocking surprises.
Yeah.
Max, what were your overall thoughts?
I adored this movie. This was great. Yeah, it was one of the it's like one of the only horror movies that I walk out of and I'm like that was really enjoyable and I would watch that again. I can only like the only other one of those I can think of is Get Out probably.
Would you classify it as a horror film? Because I wouldn't.
It's kind of genre defining, but it was pitched as a horror film.
It's listed on Letterboxd as a thriller, horror, and comedy. So I guess you're right, but I would say it's more of a thriller than a horror film.
It was very funny, though.
Nick,
what were your overall thoughts?
I think Rafe Fiennes has delivered unto us a new Sigma. I feel like Julian Slowik is a new Sigma in the pattern of the Riddler in a way that I really like, actually. Okay. Which I feel like we can talk about. I assume we're going to talk about the class struggle connotations of the film later. Sure. But I think everyone in that film got what was coming to them. It was a great movie.
Max strongly disagreed. And see, here's the thing. So Max called me earlier and had mentioned a very interesting opinion that I greatly disagree with. So, Max, how do you want to go about with...
What were your overall thoughts? Bella, you haven't shared yours.
Oh, well, I loved it. It's not a great film for a person who has a chronic fear of knives, but I thought it was really refreshing in terms of, like, modern films that I see, thriller films that I see. I don't know what's up with 2022 movies in, like, chapters, but, like, so many of them have, like, inserts, like, title cards, which I really like. I appreciate that. I don't know. I don't have any thoughts.
I liked the structure nature of it. I thought that was so fun. I have a couple, like, little games that I wanted to bring to this one. Will you all indulge me with those?
Always.
Of course.
Okay, so game number 1. What snacks are we eating during the podcast today? So I'm drinking the Truth Imperial, like, beer. And then I'm eating Route 11 lightly salted potato chips.
You love your Route 11.
You're still working on your Aperol Spritz. I'm drinking a bottle of Steel Reserve's finest 42 ounces of malt liquor.
This man
the 8%, not the 5%. Thank you very much.
Not a good rep with 40s, but we'll see how this night goes.
Listen, I'm not doing Edward 40 hands tonight. We'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wow.
We don't have food. This man hates snacks.
You don't like...
Can you believe
okay,
that?
come on. It's
I know.
It's a food podcast.
Snacks are important.
We got snacks over there if you want to help yourself. I just won't partake.
It's not the same.
It's not the same.
Like, most food movies make me hungry. This movie did not make me hungry at all. I will say that. I don't know.
Yeah.
The single piece of scallop on a rock didn't make you crave seafood.
Never ever want to be in a 8-course meal. That is my worst nightmare.
I did like how they served a glass of wine with each meal. Like, this is a 4-hour dinner during which they were served, like, 6 or 7 glasses of wine and, like, not that much food. Like, I was watching the part with, like, Julian Slowik's mom in the corner just, like, downing glass after glass of this expensive ass wine with no food. I really enjoyed that. That was one of my favorite parts.
I would say just go see this movie. I'm gonna say, before we even give like numbers and before we talk about specifics, I really enjoyed this movie. Even if you don't normally like horror, if you're into like thrillers, this is a really good one. Thriller is just what you call a horror movie that is accepted by like mainstream film.
That's a good
like
point.
society.
Yeah.
If you're into thrillers, if you're into like bottle films, films that can feel like they're like high concept, just go watch this movie. It's really good, and you'll really enjoy it.
Comedic too.
And it's not incredibly bloody either.
Yeah,
I did like that part. We tried to watch. Bella tried to show me Barbarian, and I had to like make them turn it off after that dude's head got turned into Jello, because I was just like, I can't fucking deal with this shit right now. I had to sleep with the closet doors open. Like, that shit was scary as hell. I liked this one because it was not like jump scary and like fucking blood all over the place with the gore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's something for everyone to like laugh at for this movie.
And to think about, too.
Yeah. And since it is a thriller, I would say it's best probably to watch it without spoilers. Because there's a lot of shit that goes on. So if you're into that, please watch it and then come back later and then hear us discuss more. All right.
I agree.
We're into spoilers. Here
Now
go.
we can start my second game. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay, Jigsaw.
Second game, part 1.
Uh-huh.
Who is your favorite couple in this movie?
No.
Who's your favorite couple? You have to pick one.
Probably Anya Taylor-Joy's character.
You have to pick a pair of people.
And the
And
other
him.
guy.
And
him.
Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah.
Nicholas Hoult, yeah.
I gotta say,
Yeah.
mine was probably the thruple of like finance bros.
Yeah.
they were
I was
funny,
watching. I was
yeah.
like, I wonder if they've ever explored each other's bodies. They're so diverse.
Yeah.
Real.
I love the way.
Probably.
I love the way that they have that sort of. I'm a master of the universe, but also I'm a peon to an actually powerful man. Like, I get the sense that they like watch Andrew Tate videos and they nod and they're like, yes,
Yeah.
this guy knows what's going on. And I really enjoyed watching them die.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Max, what was your favorite couple?
My favorite couple was obviously the food critics.
I hated them.
I thought they were so funny. Everything that they said made me laugh out loud. Like,
it made
Well,
me
you-
laugh too, but
Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss, and professional sycophant. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
I thought like they were so, you know, as someone who has used the word melange to describe food, I enjoy a little bit of like
what food?
like certain wine, you know?
Okay.
It's like this, yeah. You know, I enjoy a little bit of making fun of people being silly and using big words to talk about anything, like food or film, you know? And I thought it was funny. My favorite line was when she was like, you know, it's like a biome. It's of, it's like an culinary biome. And he goes, right, it's like this ecosystem. And she says, I like biome
I
more.
like biome. Yes.
Because that's so
Oh my
real. It's
God.
like when you're so like up your own, that like the specific word choice is more important to you than like the general thing that you're saying.
Yeah.
You know, who
Yeah.
among us has not been there trying to explain why we like something particularly?
I really liked Anya Taylor-Joy's character. It took me a minute to figure out that she was a sex worker.
Yeah.
yeah, and the way Nicholas Hoult was like love bombing her and acting all narcissistic made me think, oh, they've been like dating like a month, and he's
Right.
like inveigling her into his narcissistic little man web of manipulation.
Yeah.
You know,
That's what I thought. I think that the script is just like incredible. Oh my God. And the actors, they do a really good job of like eating up all of the little things in the script and like all the opportunities for characterization.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that you sort of get this in media res introduction to all of the different characters. Like you don't get a formal introduction to them, you know?
What do you mean?
Okay, so I have to admit something. I went to see this movie with my roommates, and neither of them had eaten dinner yet, and so we did arrive a minute late to the movie. Not a minute theoretically, a minute exactly late to the movie.
Okay.
So I missed the first minute of the movie. I walked
How
up
do you
when
know
they
it
were.
was the first minute?
What?
I walked up when Nicholas Hoult and Anna Taylor-Joy were standing on the dock, and he was chiding her for smoking a cigarette.
I mean,
Yeah.
that is like the very first thing that happens in the
Yeah.
movie. You didn't
So
really miss anything.
Okay, so I'm glad that I didn't miss anything. Then I was right. Like, I like that the characters aren't, like, you don't have a, like, individual conversation between, like, each of the characters necessarily for all of the different groups of people. You sort of get introduced to them as if you already, like, are supposed to know who they are, and then they're just having conversations with each other. Like, there's no, like, this is what these people are like, and here's, like, a short conversation between them that identifies who they are.
There's no exposition, man.
Right. I'm reminded of Suicide Squad. At the beginning of it, there's, like, the headers, and it's like, this is Killer Croc, and it's, like, a little, like, scene that describes, or that is supposed to introduce you to Killer Croc, or whatever, and then, like, this is Death Trap, or whatever his name is, Will Smith, and, like, you don't get anything like that in this. There's no, like, formal introduction to these characters, really. And I like that. I think that it's like you sort of get to reveal things about them that you're not hidden from you, but are not also like explicitly told to you.
Yeah, you're sort of, it's like you're peeling back the layers of an onion over time as the movie goes on. Like the part where, like the elderly couple was like, the dude who got his finger cut off, were like talking at the table, and the woman was like, doesn't that girl look like female name? And then later, when Anya Taylor-Joy is explaining her experience with the man, you realize, oh, that girl that she mentioned is their daughter. Just, like, really hair-raising. That reveal had us both, like, fucking, like, literally gasping for air.
I
Like,
had to look away for a lot of the film. I was like, I need to take time out. I need to leave.
This movie was so rapturous, we weren't even able to get to drinking the beers that we secretly brought into the movie theater.
I know. I'm so stressed out.
We haven't even talked about the two favorite characters in my opinion. There's three that I think are like really important to me that we haven't even touched on yet. Mm-hmm. One, John Leguizamo. I think he's funny, just in general. I think he can really, like, eat up a role, you know?
Yeah.
He's so on top of his game in every movie. And it's funny, he's playing a character who's, like, he's an actor who's, like, lost his abilities because he has not lost his abilities looking at this film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, the only other thing I've ever seen him in is as, like, mechanic in John Wick. But I thought he was good in that.
I mean, he was in Encanto last year. Like, he's
I have
been
not seen
doing
that.
work. He was in Chef, bro. One of our favorite movies. That was framed the other day, and I literally didn't freaking get it, and I felt so bad.
That's really embarrassing.
It really is.
And then the two other characters, the head chef and the person who runs all of the administrator, like the administrator.
Oh,
of the,
Yeah.
I haven't seen her in anything else that I know of. What's that actor's name?
Hong Chow.
Yeah, is she?
Oh, she was in Inherent Vice? Oh, she's in The Whale that comes out this year.
The Whale hasn't come out yet?
No.
Oh my god, I've been hearing about it for the last 9 months.
Yeah, because it premiered at when? It premiered at Venice and then at TIFF probably. And then it got like a bunch of...
Why is it that every single movie, they promote it for like 18 months straight? Like, I feel like the Barbie movie has already come out at this point. I've seen so
it's only
fucking
because
much
of the
about it.
celebrities involved, I think.
I saw ads for this movie in like May of this year.
Max,
Christ.
you literally... What were we seeing when we saw an ad for this film? Seeing something, and I remember distinctly, you turned over to me and you go, that doesn't look good. And I was like, no, I'm intrigued. I want to know more.
Yeah, I think I probably thought it didn't look good because I thought it was going to be like a standard schlocky horror movie. Because the thing that stuck with me from the ad was like we're having dinner and suddenly everyone has to run, and I thought it was just going to be like a chase movie, when in fact that was only 10 minutes of the movie, and it wasn't even focused on for the 10 minutes that it was in the movie.
I did like, yeah, you're right. I remember distinctly from the ad, there was like one scene of him like sharpening his knife, and I was just like, oh my God, this looks tacky as hell. And that wasn't even in the movie.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Hong Chau as Elsa, I feel like was like the deepest character emotionally in the film. Like she cares so much and about impressing the chef.
Yeah.
And she cares so much about like living this role, and she's clearly like totally brainwashed into whatever the cult is, because she obviously administrates the cult on the island.
I don't know. I would push back against the idea that this is a cult.
It's a cult. Come on.
I disagree.
It's a suicide cult.
It's not a... Listen, the fact that they share a common revolutionary zeal and hatred for their masters in this case does not a cult make.
It's not revolutionary.
I don't know. I just don't think that it's a cult. Julian Slowik is not that charismatic.
What are you talking about? Everyone is in love with him in this movie.
I would agree with that. I mean, cult is a very vague thing. I think most things tend to be cults. But...
No.
I don't know.
I don't think that it's a cult, because saying it's a cult implies that these people were turned to an opinion that was not necessarily something that they already felt in their hearts. And like, I view Slowik and his compatriots in what they're doing not as like a mindless mob following a charismatic leader, the victims of brainwashing, but rather as a group of disaffected people whose passion and whose art and whose skills have been turned into an object of materialistic consumption. Call them in the movie, he calls them takers, but like essentially bourgeois, rapacious bourgeois consumers who suck up everything for the sake of consuming it. Like that old dude and his wife who had been there 11 times, and yet he only thought they had been there like 5 or 6. He couldn't even remember it, simply because he was there for clout. He didn't even care about the experience or the food at all. He was there because he could afford it and wanted the social capital that it brought him. And so like, if you're in this high pressure like restaurant industry, I see a clear link between that and like they're service people. Like they are the new proletariat. Like they're not they may not be in factories, but their labor is still exploited by these people who give nothing back to them and do not appreciate their craft or their art. And so I don't know, I'm kind of rambling now, but like I feel like it's not a cult. I feel like how the killing them all thing was the woman's pitch who stabbed Slowik in the leg.
Right.
Like it's not all coming from the top there. This is a community that is together deciding what they're gonna do to beat these motherfuckers' asses.
Yeah.
I think that the idea that a cult is all just like following the desires of one person might not be like how I'm thinking of that. The idea that that the most important thing, and I guess this is sort of getting at like larger themes that we'll be exploring, all of them have this feeling that the most important project of their lives is creating a work of culinary art which is perfect, or which is supreme, like that all of this exists, all of this is done as a method of producing the most beautiful holistic experience of culinary experience that they could do. Right? That's explicit in the film, I think. and that's
Yeah.
that's the purpose of the evening. And what would be more insurmountable than a culinary experience which results in the death of all of the people there? That's the explicit text. That's the text.
No, I think
No,
the explicit text is that this, as sort of elucidated by Anya Taylor-Joy's soliloquy at the end, where she demands a dish cooked with love. Like, I would say that the overarching theme of the movie is that the art and the love that goes into cooking are inseparable, essentially, and that the coldness that accompanied the artistic excellence of Julian Slowik's kitchen towards the end was the direct result of its transformation into a tool of the bourgeois takers, of these people who have turned the dining experience into this unattainable thing. Because this greatness is only available to the elite, to the Hollywood elite, to the business elite, to the critics, to the wealthy. Idea that the death of these takers is a part of the art itself, I think, is not really the idea of what the movie is about so much as it is the death of the takers is a poetic ending, a sort of and this is something that I was intending to just sort of talk about in discussing the history of immolation when we get to discussing the end of the movie, but Slowik's purification of the evildoers at the very end by turning them into human s'mores, I think is a sort of metaphorical cleansing of these people, of these parasites, this parasitic class.
But to be clear, that is a theme of the work, but that is not the explicit reason why he runs the meal the way he does.
Is that so? I don't recall him saying that he wanted to kill them for artistic purposes.
Yeah, that's what she said. The fact that everyone was dying at the end was part of this. When they were asking why do we have to die, he said the meal would not be the same without you dying, right? That was
Yeah, but I feel
point.
like that was based in some type of greater thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't think it was purely just because of food and artistic choices. I don't know.
Slowik's the meal would not be the same because Slowik, part of it is this is something that's interesting. There's sort of a dual meaning to human immolation. There's the martyrdom aspect, and then there's the punishment and purification aspect. The self-immolation and then the immolation of others. And by killing them all, the meal, of course, would not be the same because it wouldn't send the same message. At its core, what he is doing is attempting to provoke a intentionally revolutionary message, one that makes him and his fellow service workers martyrs to the service of saying, essentially, fuck these guys, and fuck everything they stand for, and fuck what they've done to our art and our craft, and fuck what they've taken from us.
Max says no.
Well, I agree that that's how he feels, right? I agree that that's how he feels. There's no revolutionary character to what he's doing in that, the story of their death is totally uninteresting to the movie or to the narrative of the film. There's nothing about, he's interested in people taking this as a message. It's purely meant for the people in that room.
That's the thing I would disagree with, is when he's talking to Anya Taylor-Joy about being able to see a fellow service worker and being able to understand what a fellow service worker is struggling with, it is clear that he is sympathizing with this sort of latent underclass in American societies, the givers, the providers, while the people in the restaurant, the customers, symbolize the takers. And this is something that I think we can all recognize in the class divide in our society today. And historically speaking, you might say that the self-immolation is not necessarily interested in the revolutionary aspects of it, but I would recall the 1963 self-immolation of the Vietnamese monk Quan Duc, who set himself alight in the imperial city of Hue during the height of the Buddhist crisis, and ultimately led to the toppling of the Diem regime in South Vietnam. And so the self-immolation is an act of self-martyrdom, of protest, which historically and contemporarily, apparently, there are still, since 2011, there have been 158 Tibetans who have set themselves alight in protest of China's policies in Tibet. But this is an action that represents an intense expression of self-martyrdom and dedication to a cause in a way that I think really resonates with the direction in which our contemporary class relations are headed. And, in the same way that the Riddler was actually the good guy in Batman, Julian Slowik is a Sigma male who we should all aspire to be more like.
I agree. I agree about the thematic character of the self-immolation at the end of the film. I'm reminded, really recently, of the person who lit themselves on fire in front of the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And I think that thematically, is something that the film wants to talk about and wants people to have in their mind. I don't think that is textually something that the film is interested in. The film is not interested in their revolutionary character. And the reason why I think that is because no one in the film is interested in what happens after they die. Slowik is not interested in it. He doesn't bring it up at all. He, if anything, he sees everyone's death there as being an end in itself. Textually, that's what's happening. Even though, obviously, all of us, I think you make a really good argument that all of us are meant to have in our minds, historic self-immolation and its relation to class politics.
You want to say something, Bella?
No, you say.
And I think that sort of goes to the nihilistic perspective of the film.
See, I don't know. I think it's both an art piece and a political statement that he's trying to make. I think he's reached a point in his career where maybe he's even disgusted with his own self and using. What are you? Okay.
Keep going. You're saying everything that I'm thinking. Say it.
And I think his wanting to go through with this, everyone's gonna die, even the service workers, even the customers. There's something both in the political statement about what exclusive dining has come to and celebrity has come to, while also I don't know. I think there's two parts to it. But I still think his message comes through about, classism. I don't know.
Well, I think it's also if Anthony Bourdain set himself on fire in protest of something, even if he didn't say to anyone that he was doing it with a revolutionary purpose, I feel like it would still be self-evident. The very fact of the person's fame means that the message that they are trying to send out is one that will resonate with across the media landscape and with national and international audiences. Honestly, I also think that the self-martyrdom by immolation is a little bit of a cop-out to avoid prison.
It could be, yeah.
Because they could have just murdered those guys.
I have a theory about, and this is, I guess, what my ending game is that I haven't said yet, is what was the theme of the meal? And I don't want anyone to answer that yet, because I want us to go through the individual dishes first. Because remember at the beginning of the movie, he says every meal that he serves has a theme that you don't understand until the end. I think I feel like I understand it, and my theme of the meal seems to be different from yours. But can we go through the actual the dishes first before we get there?
Yeah,
I have them.
I don't remember them.
I think I do because I saw it last night.
Tyler?
Can we talk about Tyler's bullshit?
I hate Tyler's
I'm really
bullshit.
excited for Tyler's bullshit.
Let's skip ahead to Tyler's bullshit.
Tyler is an interesting point in the movie. Why is what's Slowik angry with Tyler?
Because he's a beta male fame cuck who's obsessed with a celebrity.
Yeah.
He's not obsessed with the celebrity. He's obsessed with the food.
No. Listen, he's obsessed with Slowik. I think there's no disputing the fact that he's obsessed with Slowik.
We're chef.
But as a means towards being obsessed with the food, yeah?
It's no. I don't think that he is obsessed with food. I think he's obsessed with clout. This dude This dude, if he really respected Slowick and respected the food and the craft and the trade, he wouldn't be whipping out his phone at every available opportunity to take a photo of it after being expressly forbidden from doing so. Tyler is in the same category of dude, I don't know, who trade crypto or like buy up Supreme gear. Like it's all edifice, it's all artifice. Like it's nothing of substance there. He's just a narcissistic little man without a soul who is grasping at something that will give him a personality.
If that were the case, why doesn't he, like, why does he actually know all of the details? He just seems like someone who's like hyper fixated on the like specifics of one profession, you know?
Like, he's clearly involved in the food atmosphere and he's willing to die for this. But at the same time, he's gonna take photos of it, even though he knows he's gonna die, even though they told him not to take photos. Like, I don't know.
That's a good point. When the hell is he gonna post these photos?
Yeah.
The dude's been telling him for 8 months that he's going to be killed. And like,
see, that's the thing too.
And he's still taking photos for his Instagram.
I don't know if he actually knew that he was gonna get killed. Like maybe it was like,
that's a good point.
oh,
He
this
thought
was
that
like
it was like part of a
killer meal. I don't know if he actually thought he was gonna get killed because it's an artistic experience. You pay for the experience of it all, and if that's part of it, then you expect not to be
it's
killed.
so high concept. We're walking into a Saw movie.
I thought that it was like that Nathan For You episode where he's like the scariest haunted house where you where you think that you're gonna die because you caught a disease. It's I think that this would be such a funny episode of Nathan For You. It's like, Nathan For You, this episode, we're revamping the high concept restaurant by killing all of the
This is why
clientele.
Nathan For You would be really good at running a re-education camp.
Okay.
That didn't land for me, personally. I think I know why Slowick hates him. I think Slowick hates... Okay, we're skipping ahead. Meal 5 is called Tyler's Bullshit. What was it? It was lamb and shallots and leeks.
Yes.
Undercooked lamb. That's important. In a butter sauce.
But what that whole scene I think is about is the fact that Slowick feels like his profession is being devalued and destroyed by people who care about knowing about it without actually practicing it. And I think that is a common sentiment among some professions. You know, like magicians, for example. If you're actually interested in magic, like becoming a practiced magician is part of learning like how magic tricks work, because it gives you a respect for the profession on top of your like actual knowledge, and it like gatekeeps the knowledge behind the actual practice. But Tyler's like a theory head. He has no interest in actually practicing the art of cooking. And so all he does is remove the magic from cooking, or from like chef practice, you know? And I think that's what Slowick doesn't like about him.
That makes sense. No, you're right. Like when he's like, you have a Paco jet. And it's like, you have a Paco jet, but you've never used it. Like it's just sitting gathering dust. No, that's a good point. The magician reference you made is really funny because we just watched The Prestige last night.
I should have said that as my favorite movie.
That's a good one.
Next week.
Man, I hate Christopher Nolan. Dude needs to chill out.
But I love
That's his one good movie.
It's his one good movie.
And I think that why he hates Tyler kind of unlocks like part of the theme among all the guests, is that they are guests who devalue like the art of the culinary world.
Yes.
Whether it's just because they have enough money to get in, or because they're famous and they actually aren't even like thinking about the food, like John Leguizamo, or whether they have like high connections, or whether they're critics and like they exist to arbitrarily like tear down lives. Like that's what he says was the problem with her, is that she's like ruined careers just for clout and for no reason. Like all of them, he feels, have this detrimental effect on the art of creating food.
Yeah, they're parasites.
but not economic parasites necessarily. Although many of them are.
Well, no, I think they all are, actually. I recall the part where he goes to John Leguizamo's assistant, and he's just like, where'd you go to school? She said, Brown. He said, student loans? She said, no. He was like, I'm sorry, you're going to die. Like, that was the best exchange of the whole movie for me, because it encapsulates, just the gap between... like the sheer magnitude of the gap between the people dining in the restaurant and the people sitting in the back of the kitchen. Yeah. Like, even though she is sort of a peon to Leguizamo, she was moving on to some sort of nebulous Hollywood producer position that would have bagged her 6+ figures a year, and she wouldn't have had to do shit except thumbs up, thumbs down on screenplays. It's sort of everyone who is in that restaurant, with the obvious exception of Anya Taylor-Joy and perhaps the exception of that old rich douchebag's wife, deserved to burn in alongside the staff.
Okay, Max, why are you saying they don't deserve to die?
What the fuck are you talking about? They deserve to... That's so fucking stupid. They deserve to die. Just it doesn't make any sense. I think that it's easy to understand why the chef is interested or wants them to die, and why he has beef with them as people based on his life experience. But they deserve to die is so fucking silly. But
it's a thriller. It's a horror film.
But they don't deserve... I don't even understand why that's relevant to whether they deserve to die or not.
Because they're all exaggerated caricatures and representations of, our greater society. I don't know.
No, you make a good point. Leguizamo and his assistant represent the excesses of Hollywood. Mm-hmm. The finance bro thruple represents the business interests. The old man and his wife with the pearl necklace represent the sort of old school moneyed classes. Yeah. The critic and her publisher represent the media. Who else was there? I guess Tyler was there. But Tyler just represents douchebags who post their dinners on Instagram.
I think that's a valid read of the film.
All those, sort of... These caricatures that represent these broader groups are all representative of the groups which have manipulated and milked and flogged the dead horse of our society until the skins come off. And frankly, I don't care that they die in the end. I'm glad. Those dudes fucking deserved it. Every single one of them, for what they represent in terms of their class, their place in the class struggle. Just because they haven't killed anyone personally doesn't mean they're not parasites and adversarial to a more equitable distribution of resources and wealth.
Yeah, and yet consider the chef and the staff's actual position, right? They are on they work on the most prestigious, most highly paid position in their entire industry. They are obviously not want for money. Their housing is covered. They're working on their passion professionally 24/7.
Well, that's the thing. You're completely right, except they are not free. They are wage slaves of the man who is the boss of that little gay thruple of business boys.
Him. Yeah.
Who he sank into the ocean attached to a pair of angel wings, his angel investor. That man owned him. That was his his modern day equivalent of a feudal lord. He executed him in front of his guests as a statement of him freeing himself from the bonds of his class relationship to the bourgeoisie. The killing of the angel investor, I think, is when the movie really turns. When they do that little charade with the Coast Guardsmen, and he says, oh, the restaurant's recently undergone a change in ownership. It's like the change in ownership, it is now changed from this wealthy fuck who couldn't give a shit about the art, about the practice, about what Slowick or his compatriots actually want, to a collective, essentially, of Slowick and the people he works with.
But if we take that tact, John Leguizamo is an actor. He's
Yes.
he's not of the bourgeois class. Even if we want to be using like 19th century class analysis, like John Leguizamo is absolutely not of the bourgeois class.
Well, there's a difference between an actor in the 19th century context, whether you're in theater, and one in which you are accumulating capital of your own. Once you start to accumulate...
Obviously that Slowick is doing that.
Once you start to... No, but Slowick doesn't have anything. Slowick's life is nothing. Slowick is a slave to his work, and he makes as much clear in his... In the many soliloquies that he goes on about how he sacrificed everything. He has no family. The only person he's related to or is close to is his mother, who is currently drunk in the corner.
Right.
Like, he literally has nothing. He lives on this deserted island, devoting 7 days a week to his craft. And I think that is part of, like, what is so incisive about his critique of Leguizamo's character, which is, in its essence, that he took his one day in months off to see Dr. Sunshine. And it was dog shit. Slowick might be accumulating fame and social capital in a way, not any that's actually usable to him, because he is, in essence, still beholden to his angel investor master. Leguizamo's character is still free. Leguizamo is able to come and partake in the meal. Leguizamo is able to stop doing high-budget films and enter his voiceover or narration era, where he starts doing travel documentaries.
Yeah.
Leguizamo is able to live off fat royalty checks and essentially just coast on the tail end of a very meh career as an actor, but one which has been very lucrative to him. I think even though Leguizamo, I think that, the obviously 19th century class analyses do not predict necessarily the relationship of modern day entertainers to the bourgeois proletariat paradigm, but I would say that with the capital and the prestige that Leguizamo has accumulated, he is placed firmly amongst the ranks of the takers here.
And I think that distinction between taker and provider is like the way that the film wants to engage with class analysis on a level that doesn't require people to read like pages and pages and chapters and books of theory. What do you think the theme of the meal is? We got Tyler's bullshit. Tyler's bullshit.
Man's Folly was a
Man's
great
Folly
one.
is number 4. What was your favorite meal? Because that'll help us fill it out.
Mine was a tie between Tyler's bullshit and Man's Folly.
Mine's a three-way tie between those two and S'mores.
S'mores. There was the palate cleanser.
Oh, true. What was the palate cleanser?
It was a tea made of bergamot and
Right.
Oh, okay. Right before Tyler's bullshit.
So the island, breadless bread, palate cleanser, Man's Folly, Tyler's bullshit, S'mores. Oh, sorry. The mess. The mess is the one we missed.
I feel like the mess is where the movie really turned.
The mess is such a beautiful, like, just incredible jaw to the floor scene, because you can tell what's going to happen when it starts.
Oh yeah, when they like lay out the mat, I was just like, is he gonna kill this dude? And it ended up being so much more visceral than that.
When he says, like, do you want the life that you currently have? And he says no. And he goes, do you want my life? And he says no. Like, it's so sad, because all they care about is producing something beautiful, like producing a great work of art. And it is awful. It's unbearable.
Well, I mean, and part of the reason, I guess, not to harp on the thing I've ranted about 6 times already.
That's valid.
But like, the reason why it's unbearable is because it has to be done for a profit. Like they're slaves to these people, these takers essentially, and that have sucked the love out of it.
I think that that's a totally like valid read of why that's happening, but within my like read of the film, which is also about like the destruction of self when you're pursuing something artistically beautiful or something artistically complete, this desire that he has to produce something amazing has killed everything that he loves and that he wants in his life. Like he spends all of his time practicing and trying to become perfect and like to become a great chef, and he's being told by the actual chef of the restaurant that he works at that he is never going to be great and that there's nothing he can do to get out of it. That realization is suicidal, like,
yeah,
I think that like is another valid read of the film, that doesn't negate the class, like the socialist reading of the film, and that is equally sad and like terrifying and scary.
but what do you make of like I feel like I take that reading in terms of Ray Fiennes' character, but do you think that he has gotten to a point where he's like so elevated, in like 100-Foot Journey, like where you get to a point in like in your cooking career when you're so elevated that you're kind of removed from the love of it all? Because I think there's something so important in the fact that Anya Taylor-Joy kept bringing you back to like making it with love.
I agree.
Because I see what you're saying, but I also think that I see in Ray Fiennes' character some type of like self-hatred for the fact that he went this far already. But then again, why would he be still inflicting this on his workers? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that he I think that scene in particular has readings within both of the like paradigms that we're looking at. Like in mine, her saying that was was 2 parts. One, a negation of his desire to create something which is high concept, and this sort of like mental neurosis that he has, or pathology that he has, that like creating a great meal involves creating something which is not just a culinary experience, but in a multisensory narrative experience. Like it totally undermines his actual understanding of what makes a meal great, because he himself has been affected by the fact that he has to make meals for people who get bored by enjoying something that's made with love. But also, on the second level, the way that I read that in the film when I was watching it was that he cares about the theater of the meal, and he cares about the holistic experience, and she finally gave him a way to let her go within the game of I am serving a meal that involves killing everybody. Like she gave him an out where he gets to maintain the theater and the experience that he is trying to give everybody, while also doing the thing that he really wants to do, which is let her go. So like both of those interactions, I feel like, or both of those analyses feel equally true to me. Okay. And I'm sure there's also like the idea that like someone might ask for food which is not associated with upper class dining, was something that touched him.
Well, I mean, like, it's obviously a callback to the photo that she saw of him cooking a hamburger and smiling in his secret room. Like, yeah. I think, honestly, like, I feel like the idea of the multi-course meal and the elaborate place setting and sort of theater around the meal is not one that was created by contemporary, like, dining for the elite. Like, this is something that goes back centuries and millennia, the idea of endless courses and everything that goes along with it, with entertainment and theater and everything like that. And so when the scene when Anya Taylor-Joy goes into his secret room with the silver door and like tries to use the AM radio and sees essentially the reverse progression of his joy, the photos of him on the wall as he's frowning in the opening of his newest restaurant with his angel investor, and then is steadily happier in the photos that progress until you see him in a state of joy with a hamburger on a spatula as employee of the month, with that photo in pride of place. I think that is something that supports the notion that a meal that is cooked with love, that is simple, that is cooked for someone that matters to you is what is important. I think that the escalating stakes, the more high concept, the more courses to the meal was something that was not natural to him, but was foisted upon him by the pressures of his skill, of his elevation in his art. They're like, he moves upwards in the culinary world because that is what we're told to do, is move upwards in our field. But as he does, the pressures of, producing for the takers, of creating theater, of creating elaborate dishes with narratives and everything, becomes something that he hates and reviles and ultimately turns around against the takers in this particular meal.
An alternate and equally like Hegelian interpretation is that he has developed in what seemed like a reasonable development upon each step towards this thing which seems like the height of advancement for the culinary art, which is clearly something he cares about. And yet in reaching that height of advancement, he realizes that what he misses was the simplicity of the original thing. Like there are qualities in that which are totally alien to him now, and which, like, he actually doesn't. That's not something that's on his mind, but she reminds him of in asking for a hamburger.
Well, I would kind of dispute the idea that it's not on his mind, because the pride of place in which he puts his employee of the month photo from like his buttfuck nowhere hometown in Iowa, like in the center of his room, like all the other photos are on the wall, but in his little solitary confinement bedchamber, that photo of him with that unbridled expression of joy at cooking a hamburger is on a table by his bedside.
Yeah.
Like he remains in touch with what, I think that indicates that he remains in touch with what brings him joy in his craft, and that he is a sort of victim of his own success in this regard. Like, I think that the multi-course meals are him becoming a victim of the clientele which his fame has forced him to serve, which his wage slavery to his angel investor has forced him to accommodate. I think that Slowick would be perfectly happy slinging hamburgers at a minor league baseball stadium, like if he could do it in the way that he wanted to, in the way that he loved. Like, I don't think that the theater, that the art is necessarily ultimately what he was compelled by in the end of the thing. As long as he could perform his given craft at a high level, I think that was what would have been important to him.
Yeah, I just, why does he go through the entire game of producing this thematic meal to kill everybody? Why doesn't he just kill everybody? Like, that's... Well,
I think he has a distinct sense of irony. Like the idea that these people came for a meal, which he is obligated to serve them, and which he does serve them to the best of his ability, with a distinct twist of including homicide, suicide, self-immolation, immolation of the guests. I think that the poetic justice of the thing, in addition to being, the premise of the movie. Also, have you heard about like how the dude who wrote this movie came up with the idea for it? He went to a restaurant on an island off the coast of Bergen, Norway, and thought to himself, "Oh, I'm trapped here, basically. This would be a great pitch for a movie." And it's just like, oh my God, you're a taker. You're a taker.
Yeah.
Just like, I hate that so much.
Yeah.
I hate that.
That explains the s'mores thing.
Yeah.
That the guy who wrote this is a taker in the concept of this film.
Yeah.
Because wouldn't you think, I don't know, like, from my reading, I read it as very, like, anti-capitalistic. I don't know. And so, learning that was very interesting to me.
That is like, unlocks like why s'mores is the ending, right? Like that it's something which is self-produced, right? S'mores are not prepared for you. They're something where nobody can be a taker. Like you can't be a taker of s'mores.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's cheap and accessible materials. And they taste disgusting. Solidarity with Chef Slowick on this one. I hate fucking s'mores.
I'm not a huge s'mores
Max,
fan either.
You have, like, if you were in Tyler's place, would you have a dish that you would be ready to make?
So true.
I probably
I know
make
what
like
I would
French.
make.
You know, I make French onion soup.
I think my go-to dish would be I make a mean beans and rice. I'm not even joking. Like I really do.
How do you think Slowick would feel about that?
I think he would enjoy it.
No,
like,
I think
back to the basics.
He
know?
would enjoy it. It's very proletarian of you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. What would your dish be?
Key lime pie.
There you go.
It's not cooking. I'm bad at cooking. I'm very good at baking.
I'm horrible at baking. I burn everything.
Amuse-bouche, The Island, Breadless Bread, The Mess, Palate Cleanser, Man's Folly, Tyler's Bullshit, S'mores. What is the theme of the meal? I think that it is the first dish that unlocks the rest of them.
Okay.
My feeling is that the theme of the meal is that humans are a scourge on the earth and should all commit suicide.
Indeed.
That's very
Can I tell
Joker of you. Please go on.
I agree.
I don't agree with it. To be fair. I think that that's the theme of the meal. I think that that's what he means in this, right? That if you look at it, it's like first you start out with just nature, right? Like the island and he says like the humans on the island are totally irrelevant. We're like a barnacle on this beautiful like thing, and we're just sort of extracting value from it, we're a parasite on the island. Breadless bread, I think, is a reference to famine, right? The mess, I think, is a reference to the way that even when you think that you're producing something great, it goes wrong and harms you. Like we harm ourselves in trying to strive for something great as humans. I think that Man's Folly is about the way that we as humans harm other people, and this is it's just inherent to being a person. Tyler's Bullshit is about the way that we are less than we think we are, and S'mores is about how you should kill yourself.
Okay. I see that's the thing. I don't think Slowick's viewpoint is so nihilistic. Like, it's obvious that he views this through a sort of Manichaean struggle between the givers and the takers. And so I said being a martyr on fire is a joke, but now I feel like I'm going to defend that by saying, like, the island, the scallop is a part of that environment. It is not separate from it. It is not a scourge upon it. It is a part of it, but it is alone in its uniqueness, right? Mm-hmm. The rock is the predominant character of the island, and the plants have compatriots, but the scallop is alone. The bread is gone. The absence of solidarity as you burn alone in the square. Like the the dressing's all there, watching the emptiness that is consuming you as you light yourself aflame. I don't even know if there's really a meaning to the palate cleanser.
There's
Tyler's.
something there. Like, it is a very meager. Having a clover tea is so meager.
Hey, it's
like
Bergamo. Don't forget it's Bergamo. Don't forget
Bergamot?
Tyler's contributions. It's Bergamot.
Okay, that was hilarious to me. Bergamot is one of the most identifiable flavors I can imagine.
Yes.
It's so funny. Is this bergamot? But like yeah. Yeah.
But like the Tyler's bullshit where he is sort of cast alone into a an unnavigatable sea for him as he is attempting to desperately desperately tread water as these insurmountable forces conspire to drown him, i.e. Slowick. And then s'mores, literally going full Vietnamese Buddhist monk circa 1963 and just setting themselves all on fire.
Or literally Midsummer.
I've never seen that movie.
It's very Midsummer.
Midsummer.
It's very Midsummer.
Do we want to give ratings?
I would love to give a rating to this movie.
Amazing. Beautiful. Wonderful.
Oh, can we even talk about... Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, please go. No,
Just-
what were you going to say?
Go ahead.
I'm just saying, we didn't shout out Ralph Fiennes enough.
Yes.
Oh my god, the script writing, the acting, and then
Yeah.
like the cinematography, the audio editing, the video editing, the whole movie's so
Everything-
good and it's so
Everything
cohesive.
in the form.
I'm gonna say this: we don't do 0.25s.
Yeah, we don't.
I'm saying it's a 5 out of 5. I gotta say,
Fuck yeah! There we
It's-
go.
it is like just the fact that we've talked about it for over an hour and a half, and like I still have more things to say about it. I feel like is important to just how many like thematic reads there are in this film and how much like it touches on. Because I totally agree that like all of the things that we've said today are valid readings of the film, and like none of them like destroy the other ones. I really want to see this movie again.
I think there's like so much more to discuss. I worry for our listeners. So I'm trying to wrap it up. Nick, do you have a rating?
Well, we've been talking about this movie long enough for me to finish a bottle of malt liquor. So obviously this movie is excellent. And I give it a 4.5 out of 5.
There we go.
Because I reserve my 5 ratings for Ken
American
Burns
Psycho.
documentaries. And American Psycho. That's a great...
I also rated it a 4.5 out of 5. I don't know. There was something a little bit off of the ending, I think, for me.
It was too short.
I agree.
False.
No.
But it was really refreshing, and I totally recommend it to literally anyone who is listening to this.
It's above all the 4.5s that I've given, but it's below all the 5s that I've given. And right now I'm sitting at 4.75 and I'm trying to like round it, and I think I'm in a 5 mood.
Have you ever wanted to be able to nominate or vote in ceremonies like the Oscars or the Emmys? Have you ever loved a feature so much only for it to be swept under the rug? Well, worry no more, because we at the Deloitte Society host a non-exclusive movie award ceremony each year in February, and if you apply to become associate, you can nominate any movie you like and vote on the collective nominations. It's completely free. It takes 2 seconds. Just visit apply.deloittesociety.com and we will send you all the active information. You can also browse our website, deloittesociety.com, and see our archive, and there's a bunch of other cool stuff there. Email us at deloittesociety@gmail.com if you have any complications or questions. All right, that's my spiel. Back to the show.
All right. Do we want to get into recommendations? Brief recommendations?
Ooh, yeah. You go first.
Oh, God. So I watched this movie called We're All Going to the World's Fair today, and technically it came out in 2021. It premiered at Sundance when I went that year, but it's like a really, I think, accurate representation of the internet in general, and in a way that I think most internet movies or modern movies tend to get wrong. If you're into the internet, I would say watch it. It's on HBO Max.
Oh, it's my turn to recommend something.
Yeah, we say I'm waiting.
I recommend The Batman because for some reason, Nirvana ended up being my number one played artist on Spotify because I listened to Something in the Way, and I just listened to it like 304 times over the course of 2 weeks in May, and it ended up being my top listened artist on Spotify. And The Batman's a great movie. The Riddler, cool guy. It's a good movie. Carmine Falcone, played by the pervert from The Big Lebowski.
Our Lord and Savior, John Turturro.
John Turturro.
Yeah.
Really name him by name.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's
Our Lord.
Our Lord and Savior is Barton Fink.
Yeah, your Lord and Savior is the pervert from The Big Lebowski.
Dude,
Isn't he a pedophile?
I'm a writer.
No.
I create for the living. He's just like the
They
main
show
character in
me
this
Brother
movie.
Where Art Thou.
I'm a writer. Although he does play kind of a crappy character in Do the Right Thing.
I'm gonna be on. Wait, is he one of the Italians that says the N-word and Do
Yes.
the Right Thing? Oh,
I mean,
looks
he's the
just
so
good
true.
one. He's the good one.
The
He's
main
a good
character
one.
from
But
Uncut Gems.
still.
All right. My recommendation is the podcast season American Ivy from the podcast. It's called Articles of Interest. It's a new season called American Ivy that's about the history of like prep or like Ivy fashion trends in the United States and the way that fashion trends function. It's really interesting. It's interesting to see, like, I think fashion is kind of like the art world where everyone is constantly trying to innovate and like things get old very fast, but there's also this sort of like reciprocal relation and negative reaction against whatever has existed and towards something that like references something in the past. I think that that's true of the fashion world in a way that's visible, that's not true in the art world to like the average person. So it was super interesting to hear about that. And I also think that there were some good interviews, and I really am enjoying, listening to it. So big recommend this season. Articles of Interest, American Ivy.